On July 26th of 2023, three decorated military and intelligence veterans testified before the US Congress and claimed that the US government is in possession of crashed UFOs along with non-human biologics. They did not use the term alien or extraterrestrial. So what exactly were they implying? Is the US government really in possession of actual aliens? Find out more in today's episode. Hello, namaste, hola, guten tag, bonjour, ni hao, and hello in all the beautiful ways people greet around the world. Welcome back to the second episode of Steep of the Iceberg. Last episode, we talked about the possibility of alien life. This episode, we are talking about UFOs and if they are aliens or something else entirely. A couple of years ago, there was a UFO hearing held by US Congress on 26th of July of 2023. And if you do not know what exactly happened in that hearing, then let me try to summarize it as best as I can. Basically, three former military officials testified to Congress that the US government is keeping information about UFOs under wraps, even from the US Congress. And they also claimed that the US government is in possession of crashed UFO vessels. And the most stunning part of the testimony was the claim that US government is in possession of non-human biologics found in the crashed UFOs. There were not any evidence presented during the public hearing, but it was stated that they would provide evidence to Congress members in a confidential setting. The hearing affected me more than I expected it to. I have been intrigued with the idea of aliens and UFOs ever since I was a kid. But after watching the hearing, I got obsessed with the idea of UFOs. I went down a deep rabbit hole looking for any and all kind of information about UFOs. I spent hours and hours watching videos about UFOs on YouTube. I was browsing through dozens and dozens of posts discussing the UFO hearings on Reddit, and I was also going through hundreds and hundreds of comments. That was a wild week for me. I have to tell you that I am not someone who believes that UFOs by default mean aliens. I mean, even before the hearing, I had the belief that UFOs were not just conspiracy theories because UFO literally stands for unidentified flying objects. So UFOs could be anything unrecognizable flying in the sky. Recently, the term UAP or unidentified anomalous phenomena has been used interchangeably with UFO, which basically means the same thing, just with wider coverage. While UFO only covers flying objects, UAP covers this kind of events happening in water, land, and space as well. So it could be something as mundane as a plastic bag blown by the wind that was mistaken for something strange, or it could be an actual alien spacecraft. I also think a lot of UFO sightings might not even be an object. It could be a glitch in the recording device, or an optical illusion, or even someone's imagination or hallucination. We have all seen those grainy YouTube videos claiming UFO sightings. Half the time, it's just weather balloons looking like, flying saucers from far away, or it's the bokeh effect where the camera lens makes the regular plain light looks like a floating green pyramid. The truth is that we want to believe so badly that we forget that a camera lens can lie to us as easily as a person can. And the problem is that it's very hard to distinguish a genuine claim from a hoax and an authentic video from a doctored one. And with the advancement of AI tools, it's getting even more difficult to tell apart real UFO sighting videos from the fake ones. That is why I usually do not pay attention to UFO sighting reports because they do not have any proof of authenticity. But it doesn't mean that it's all just hoaxes and lies. But when Pentagon declassified several UFO sighting videos in 2020 during the pandemic, that changed how I viewed UFOs. It has been pretty normal to see grainy UFO videos posted on YouTube by some random person, but it's so surreal to see a UFO video confirmed authentic by something as big as the Pentagon. But the excitement kind of wore off after a week or so because even if I doubt most of the UFO videos I see, I still believe that some of those videos might have been real. And my assumption was that these are most probably some secret military technology that had not been made public. And on top of that, they are still monochromatic grainy videos. I mean, the video declassified by Pentagon are also monochromatic and very grainy. So it's very hard to discern anything from them. And there was also actually no any interpretation or statement provided about what the videos could have been. So it was the same old game of speculation and conspiracy theories. Similarly, I believe that Area 51 is not a facility where they keep alien corpses or alien spaceships. It probably just highly secret military technology research facility. And obviously, they would keep it as obscure as possible and as secret as possible for many reasons, but mostly for national security. What people see as UFOs probably might be these secret military technology being tested either by the US itself or other countries like China or Russia. I don't usually presume that UFOs are aliens, even if that is the most popular theory. But at the same time, I do not completely deny the possibility either. But following Occam's razor principle, I thought it was less probable for it to be aliens and more likely to be some man made secret military technology. You know, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. That being said, after the hearing, I have grown more open to the idea that UFOs could possibly extraterrestrial intelligence or aliens. Especially the claim that US government has been in possession of crash UAPs and non-human biologics has substantially affected my thought process and perspective regarding UFOs. I'm not saying that all the things said in the testimony is true. I mean, even if they are considered very credible officials and they did testify under oath, there still was not any solid evidence provided to verify what they were claiming. But it did make me consider the possibilities a little more seriously. So, while I was stumbling down the UFO rabbit hole, I came across mainly two kinds of people. On one side, there were believers who were taking the UFO hearing itself as a solid proof of aliens visiting us. And on the flip side, there were skeptics who were trying very, very hard to discredit and undermine everything and everyone involved in the UFO related matters. And I think both of these approaches are very problematic. Firstly, testimony under oath is not the same as hard evidence. The officials could have been lying. They might be delusional or something else is going. Just because they are testifying under oath does not mean they are speaking the truth. But it also does not mean their testimony is just another conspiracy scrap. The term non-human biologics used in the hearing drew my attention the most. I wonder why um, the term extraterrestrial or alien was not used if they actually meant to claim that alien bodies were acquired from the crashed UAPs. The term non-human is catch-all term for anything that is not human, and it doesn't necessarily just mean extraterrestrial biologics. It could be any creature found on the earth to something extraordinary like synthetically created biology. What if what they found is actually an experimental aircraft with a chimpanzee inside it as a test subject? That technically satisfies the definition of non human biologics found in the crash UAP. Um, it's a perfect way to tell the underwhelming truth without, letting down the excitement of this story. So, is the use of the term non human biologics a scientific description or maybe a legal shield? Whether the UFO hearing implies alien contact or not, it is now clear that there have been many officially verified UFO sightings. So, either way, it is something very interesting to think about. What's more interesting is the nature of the UAPs described in the testimony. It was stated that they seem to defy the laws of physics as we know them. Apparently, the UAP had no wings, no rotors, or any visible propulsion system. They were apparently able to go from they'd hover to hypersonic speed in fraction of seconds, and it was also claimed that they made 90-degree turns and dived into the ocean and then popped back out without ever slowing down. Uh, if you really think about it, that kind of acceleration does not just kill the pilot inside, but it will practically liquefy the body of the pilot. And the G force generated by such maneuver would also completely crumble any known aircraft. This is where my chimpanzee in the aircraft theory falls apart, because if my assumption is true, then humans have found ways to manipulate space time and gravity. That is what actually changed my perspective about UFOs being man-made. Because whenever I heard about UFOs, I just used to dismiss it as some man-made secret military technology. If they are something man-made, then it is even more impressive and fascinating, because apparently someone somewhere has already pioneered a technology so advanced that even the most experienced fighter pilot describe it as physics defying technology. So whether the UFOs are man-made or alien, they are either way very thought-provoking and worth wondering about. Associating UFOs with aliens is the most obvious and prominent theory, but I think it's a little reductive. Uh, we see something we do not understand, so we just attribute them to aliens. For example, take the ancient aliens so that we talked about in the last episode. The so claim that the ancient wonders were built by aliens because these monuments are too magnificent to have been built by humans alone. It doesn't just undermine the achievements of ancient humans, but also promotes a conspiracy mindset instead of encouraging critical thinking. And to be honest, it sounds very similar to how religions and belief in supernatural became so popular. I believe the main reason for the creation of religion is humanity's deep seated discomfort with information vacuum. Basically, the God of the Gaps concept. Think about it. A few thousand years ago, we did not have much scientific understanding of our world. There were so many things around us we could not explain. Where was the water coming from when it's raining down? And why was it even raining from the sky in the first place? Why does sun suddenly go dark in the middle of the day, even when there is no single cloud in the sky? So people started to attribute these natural phenomena to some imaginary entity or divine entity because that was an easier answer. It was easier to assume that Zeus was throwing his divine weapon when there was lightning and thunder instead of, figuring out that it is a massive electrostatic discharge formed in the clouds. People in China used to play loud drums and gongs to scare away the celestial dragon that was swallowing the sun because it was easier than figuring out the complex motions of the earth, sun, and the moon that causes the solar eclipse. I think it is human nature to make false assumptions about the world rather than be clueless and uncertain because uncertainty is very scary. The God of the Gaps does not just give us answers, it also gives us the most needed sense of security over the dread caused by the unknown. Because at the end of the day, believing a lie feels way better than, knowing nothing at all. Imagine the scenario. Um, if an iPhone is dropped in the first century CE, how do you think people will try to explain the iPhone then? They would probably think of it as some glowing magical artifact or a divine relic from the gods because they would have no context or capacity to understand the extent and application of that technology. Now, think of us finding something we do not understand in the present time, like UFOs. We automatically attribute them to aliens, right? So, this reminds me of Arthur C. Clarke's famous quote: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So I think in the same way, aliens are the new god of the gaps. The truth is that we still have no solid evidence that UFOs are aliens. So why limit ourselves to just, imagining they are aliens? Bear with me for next few minutes to indulge in the most outlandish sci-fi theories about UFOs other than aliens. UFOs could be some anomalous natural phenomena that we are not even aware of, something that happens naturally but not under normal circumstances. Think about it. Just a few hundred years ago, we did not know solar flares were even a thing. Just over 100 years ago, we had no idea about radiation because you cannot see it, you cannot smell it, or you cannot even feel it. But a good dose of radiation can make you very, very sick and can even kill you. Radium was widely used to make glow in the dark watches during the early 1900s, which caused many factory workers to suffer cancer and bone decay. So I think it would not be a far fetched idea to theorize that UFOs are some anomalous and rare natural phenomena. There are other more outlandish possibilities than aliens. What if we are actually living in some kind of simulated reality like Matrix? And maybe the UFOs are some type of rendering glitch in the simulation. I know it sounds like a ridiculous stretch, but let's just entertain these ideas until we really know for certain what UFOs are. There is also a property in string theory called the holographic principle, which basically suggests that the universe could be a hologram or projection of information. So, if the universe is really a hologram or a simulation, then that could explain why a UFO could ship at hypersonic speeds without having any physical effect on the aircraft, even while while pulling high G maneuvers. UFOs could be corrupted data packets that don't follow the local rules of projection, but that's just my speculation. Okay, the next one is a little bit of Atlantis, a little bit of Planet of the Apes, and a little bit of ancient alien mixed together. Consider the Silurian hypothesis. What if there are some hidden ancient civilizations living on the earth that evolved even before humans existed? Think of it this way. Just 100 years ago, archaeologists discovered the 5,000 years old Indus Valley civilization in Pakistan and the northwest part of the India. And according to archaeological findings, major cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa in the Indus Valley civilization utilized grid-like city planning with 90-degree intersections street. They also used standardized baked bricks for construction, um, and the remains of which was used by British engineers to construct Lahore to Karachi Railway in 1956 because it was such a good quality construction material. But unbeknownst to them, that it was actually the remains of the 5,000-year-old civilization. That is not all. They also had an advanced plumbing system with water wells and private bathrooms in each house, featuring sophisticated drainage system and even toilets with flush system connected to the street sewers, which practically demonstrates impressive urban planning, sanitation, and hygiene. And compare that to the modern day India and Pakistan. Many places in India and Pakistan still do not have proper toilet facility. They still use unbaked bricks for construction in many parts of the country. And except for big cities, most places don't have any proper urban planning as well. So, who is to say that there weren't even more advanced alien civilizations we haven't discovered yet? I mean, ancient civilizations that could be alien or that could be terrestrial. Maybe they still do exist but remain hidden somewhere underwater or underground. What we think of UFOs could be, their recon pods or drones. They're probably studying or mining resources from the surface. And they could have engineered warp drive technology that could literally move the space instead of moving through it. So that would also explain why inertial effect would not be an issue for them. Well, again, I'm just spitballing here, so there's no actual basis in science. It's more of a sci-fi. The next one is the time travel theory, meaning UFOs could be a time travel vessels developed by future humans, or even maybe by alien civilizations from either past or the future. So basically, future humans could be testing these probes by sending them back in time, or they could also be using it as some kind of temporal tourism to do tourism of history in person, or it could be vessels designed by alien species either from the past or the future, coming to the present time to study or to harvest resources that might not be available during the current time. I'm actually surprised that this theory is not as popular given that time travel is like the most popular sci-fi trope in the modern times. Although we do not yet have a scientific theory that suggests traveling back in time is possible, we already do have the theory of relativity that suggests time traveling to the future is theoretically possible. So we never know. We may also figure out traveling back in time, maybe in the distant future. Here is the last and most sci fi ish one. What if UFOs are trans-dimensional travel vessels? In other words, a vessel used to travel through parallel universes. There could be humans or some other advanced civilizations in parallel universe or different alternate universe that is much more advanced than us, and they could have pioneered transdimensional travel or traveling between different planes of reality. uh, uh, Consider this analogy. This is actually my favorite analogy. Imagine two-dimensional cartoons living on a sheet of paper. Their perspective would also be 2D, and they would not be able to understand or even see anything beyond 2 dimension. So if you poke a hole through the paper with your finger, the 2D cartoons won't see your finger. They would instead see a flat circle appear out of nowhere. Then they will see it change the circumference or the diameter of the circle for no reason, and they will see it suddenly disappear, leaving a hole in the reality. Similarly, if UFOs are pods traveling through higher dimensions, then that would explain why we see them suddenly appear, jeep away, and move in ways that defies the laws of physics as we know them. Also, the concept of parallel universes or multiverses are not just plot devices for sci-fi stories. These concepts are very widely recognized as scientific hypotheses. The many worlds interpretation from the quantum physics suggests that every quantum event causes reality to split into an infinite number of branches where all possible outcomes are present. In other words, quantum physics also supports the possibility of multiverses. Though the physics defying description of the UFOs had made me more skeptical about UFOs being man made technology, I still think the most plausible possibility for UFOs is still man made secret military technology. Because to me, it is more probable and simpler to think that scientists had been working on technology that we are not even aware of than, than aliens visiting the Earth. And this has happened with advanced technologies several times in the past. Technology we see in the public is usually several decades behind what military is actually testing. Humans have already split not just atoms but also subatomic particles using the Large Hadron Collider. And we have already successfully experimented with mini suns, meaning fusion reactions, even mini black holes in the lab, which sounds stranger than science fiction. Also, think about the moon landing. The Apollo mission landed astronauts on the moon more than 50 years ago with a computer so underpowered to today's computer that it makes the microchip used in the microwave in your kitchen look like a supercomputer. That is an extremely impressive and an excellent example of human ingenuity. 100 years ago, quantum mechanics was ridiculed as nonsense by many renowned scientists, including Einstein. And today we have functional quantum computers. Let's also go to biology. Genetics biologists have made so many advancements in biotech that many celebrities have already cloned their favorite pets that have died, effectively, giving them a second life. And invisibility has always been a thing of fantasy, and biotechnology has brought that fantasy closer to reality. Canadian biotech company has designed a material that bends the light in such a way that when viewed from the front, the background is visible but not the object right behind it. So it practically makes anything behind the sill invisible, and that was more than 10 years ago. So these are just a few of many examples that would have been deemed impossible or even unimaginable in the past. UFOs may seem to defy the physics as we know them, but that does not mean scientists have not been working on expanding the current understanding of the physics. Scientists have constantly expanded the horizon of knowledge and understanding of the universe. Just over 100 years ago, the idea that time works differently in different places was only considered a fantasy. And today, every GPS satellite has to constantly correct its time to account for time dilation in future. Let's also talk about alchemy. Alchemy has always been a fascination in folklore, but it's not just folklore anymore. Scientists have successfully turned metals like bismuth and mercury into gold using particle accelerator. Of course, the cost of actually turning mercury into gold is more than the actual gold, but the point is that it's not just a fantasy anymore. And we can also now buy lab grown diamonds that are as good as the natural diamonds, if not even better and more affordable. And definitely they are more ethical. So, is it really impossible to imagine that scientists have figured out how to manipulate maybe gravity or space time in a secret lab? Having said that, I do agree that the alien theory is much more plausible than my outlandish sci fi theories. If UFOs are aliens, then it would mean that their home planet most probably is not close by, because SETI, our Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, has been looking for signs of alien life for decades, but they haven't found anything promising yet. It's also possible that we have missed spotting the aliens within our neighborhood, because that they may be using different kind of technology that our deep space scans cannot detect, or because of many other possibilities that we discussed in our last episode. Whether they are from nearby stars or distant galaxies, it would still require them thousands of years to travel here if they used a conventional spacecraft. So that means they have already pioneered interstellar travel. And given all the UFO sightings that had been reported, they must have been visiting Earth for at least 100 years now. So why are they here in the first place? Maybe it's just a reconnaissance mission. Maybe they are in initial phase of their interstellar technology and just conducting experiments. So far, they don't seem to care about communicating with the humanity, nor do they seem much hostile at all. Anyway, at this point, there is no promising evidence to suggest that UFOs are aliens. So far, it still remains speculation. The possibilities are endless, intriguing, and somewhat scary as well. The sheer scale of these implications could trigger an existential crisis in many people. To quote Arthur C. Clarke again, two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not, and both are equally terrifying. If the alien angle gets proven in the next few months or years or even decades, then it would be one of the most game changing and the biggest scientific discovery for the humanity. I am both excited and terrified about that possibility. Maybe more terrified than excited. Maybe the truth is not just one of those theories. Maybe it's combination of more than one of those theories we discussed, or maybe it's entirely different than we have ever imagined. But so far, we do not have any concrete proof. So, in the meantime, the best course of action is to keep open mind and live our life as usual, because even if aliens are roaming the earth, or even if military has already developed anti-gravity weapon or warp drive technology, we still have to go to work, we still have to cook dinner, we still have to do laundry, we still have to do all those mundane chores to get by our life. Yeah, until next episode, sayonara fellow Earthicans.